Hello and welcome to AdaptNATION, the show where we look at adaptations from across the nation. I am your good friend, Owen Adams, and with me is my good friend, Jonathan Cadot. How are you, sir?
I am doing just wonderful.
Are you on fire today?
I am
you
combusting as we speak.
Are you insert goblet pun here?
I am the goblet. You are the fire.
I am the one who goblets.
I am the goblet cuckoo cuckoo.
Goblet is a funny word.
It really is. Like, it's hard to take it seriously, you know? It's like,
yeah.
Ooh, the Goblet of Fire. Hee hee.
Yeah. Which is certainly not the tone they take in this movie. Because we are talking about Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. No! It's Harold Pottington and the Goblet of Ignition. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth Harry Potter movie, based on the fourth Harry Potter book, which we mentioned last week we might be doing Goblet and Phoenix, but we're actually just doing Goblet, which I think makes sense, because this is where these movies, they get a little denser to unpack, I think. This is a little more substantial than our previous three movies. Yeah, but if you do enjoy this chat, I'll let you cut it in a moment, Jonathan. Go check out the previous episode where we discussed Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and Azkaban all in one episode.
That's right.
So if you want a little groundwork, you want to know what we think about those movies, go check out that episode. All right, go, Johnny, go!
Okay, so, what I was going to say was, I believe that this one, we'll get more into it for sure as we go on, but this one is definitely the first movie where they make substantial cuts to the book. And so I feel like this is a good time to break away.
Out of necessity, I think.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, that's just this one.
I always think of this one as the long hair and sex movie. That's the Harry Potter movie it is, right?
Why
Everyone's got
sex?
long hair. Well, because it's the movie where it's the movie where sex enters the Harry Potter universe as a concept.
I guess. I mean, I think this is where, like, attraction...
Harry puberty!
like attraction gets in, but it's not explicitly, like... I mean...
Harry Potter and the hair in really unusual places. Harry Potter and the rush of hormones. I got tons of these, don't worry about it.
Harry Potter and the strange thoughts at night.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Professor Dumbledore.
Like you went Jerry Lewis there for a second. It's Harry Potter and Goyles.
Oh, yeah, Glaven. I believe Professor Snape.
Hey, lady!
That is a movie I would watch. I will say, we made a slight oversight in the previous episode, because ever since we recorded this one, I've wanted to say, can we take a moment to, before we get into this movie, praise the casting of Alan Rickman as Professor Snape?
Oh, yeah. That's... yes.
Every time I watch one of these movies, because in the books, he's pretty much like stock villain, right? But Alan Rickman does something with Snape that is so genuinely wonderful. And it gets better as it goes, but I really do love his performance in this film, and the next, and pretty much all of them. But we didn't mention that, and Alan Rickman passed away recently, a couple of years ago, with this probably as his most famous role these days, right? No one... This and Die Hard, you know?
Yeah, probably. I think you're forgetting Bottle Shock.
But he's great, and I like him a lot. Alan Rickman, he's one of those actors who is always just Alan Rickman, and there are so few roles where he gets to really, like, play a character. But then Snape is such an over-the-top character that it it's a great role for him, I think.
Well, and he does have like one of the greatest. He has one of the best bits. We didn't really get to because I think we were getting a little tired. But he does have one of the best bits in Prisoner of Azkaban. When he has like his aha moment.
Yeah,
right?
Comes up to save the day.
Yeah, he bursts into the room and goes, ha! And then Harry's just like, nah.
But you do get that moment later on when Lupin turns into a werewolf and he does go like, get behind me, kids. He like,
right.
He still, Snape's an interesting character, isn't he? Because he is a teacher at Hogwarts responsible for the children with Dumbledore and ostensibly a good guy, as they establish in the first book. You know, he's not trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone. He's with the goodies. But he's so cloaked in villain from the perspective of like a kid.
Right. Well, I mean, and he doesn't do anything to really. He fully admits that he hates Harry Potter because of his dad. Like,
right. I mean, and he's a piece of shit teacher.
Yeah.
Like he is that asshole teacher everybody had, who you couldn't get a fucking break, and had their favorite students.
It's like at the same time, it's kind of like, oh yes, we need to mobilize against the Dark Lord and everything like that. It's like, you're literally the head of the house that makes these little fuckers. Like,
yeah, how about throw a detention their way once or twice?
Right, maybe you teach them a little fucking discipline. My God.
And he does play his favorites too. He's like signing slips to make the Quidditch team. Gryffindor give up their practice time, and you know he's helping it along. You know. All right, let's talk about the movie we're here to talk about. Let's do this. Let's get into Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. All right, let's do this. 1 year on from the events of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, as is how these series work. Harry has returned to the Wizarding World with his friends Ron and Hermione and the Weasleys to go view the Quidditch World Cup, which they reach via the power of a portkey, which is a boot that transports them to a sort of a different location in the Wizarding World where they watch some people play some Quidditch. Good fun is had by all until the Quidditch the celebrations are disrupted by the return of Death Eaters, Voldemort's former soldiers here to generally cause trouble, head out for revenge, and do evil things. Everyone flees the Quidditch pitch, but in, well, the Quidditch grounds, the area where the festival space. But Harry gets separated from them, is left behind, where he sees a man essentially looking for something in the fog, played by David Tennant in one of his very early roles, in fact. Eventually, Harry is reunited with the Weasleys, and they evacuate. I think they go straight to Hogwarts from here, right? Where they, oh no, they go to the Burrow. Do you know what? I said I didn't need to remember this. I didn't need to write this down, and I'm immediately fluffing this one. Long story short, they go back to Hogwarts, where they have a new Defense of the Dark Arts teacher, as always. As every year, they get a new one, and Professor Dumbledore informs them that this year, the Hogwarts will play host to an event called the Tri-Wizard Tournament, which is an inter-school competition where 3 schools from around the Wizarding World, one in France, one I believe in Eastern Europe, will compete for the chance to win the Tri-Wizard Tournament, the beautiful cup, the Goblet of Fire. Oh no, the Goblet of Fire chooses people. See, I'm already getting thrown. This is terrible. Each school submits a student that will compete, that is chosen by a magical goblet called the Goblet of Fire. They participate in an incredibly dangerous tournament, and the winner will be heralded by all. But Dumbledore announces that this year, because of recent events, including the return of the Death Eaters and a few other things going on, no one will be able to participate under the age of 16. And they put a spell around the goblet that prevents anyone from entering their name unless they are of age. In fact, Fred and George attempt to put their name in and fail via use of an aging potion. However, when the names are drawn, a student is chosen from each house, uh, Victor Crumb from the Eastern European School, who is a prominent Quidditch player. Fleur Delacour from the French School. And Cedric Diggory from Hogwarts. But then the Goblet produces another name, Harry Potter's, despite the fact that Harry didn't put his name in and doesn't know how his name got in there. Controversy ensues as people try and figure out whether Harry cheated, but essentially, for some strange reason, they all established that you cannot change the rules once the Goblet's decided, even though it's called the Tri-Wizard Tournament. And all 4 wizards are required to compete. I'm not going to go into detail except to say that most of the movie is taken up with Harry solving various challenges for different phases of the Tri-Wizard Tournament, which is a big competition. He fights a dragon, he solves a mystery with an egg, all that stuff. But ultimately, he makes it through to the final stage of the Tri-Wizard Tournament, which involves traveling to a maze and competing to find the cup at the very end of the tournament. Both he and Cedric make it in the end through to the very final step of the tournament, where upon touching the cup, they are immediately teleported to a cemetery very far away, where they discover that Lord Voldemort has returned from the dead, where they do battle with him. The battle costs Cedric his life almost immediately. Harry survives only through magical coincidence, takes Cedric's body back through the portkey, returns home where he informs people that Lord Voldemort has returned. Meanwhile, there is a subplot involving the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, who's a character called Mad-Eye Moody, who turns out to be an agent of Lord Voldemort who's been using Polyjuice Potion the whole time. I've covered this one a little bit more briefly than we normally do, because this is a long book, and it is quite a convoluted movie. Those are the important bits, I would say. Alright.
Get into it.
So, I know that you have read this before, but let's start with a slightly modified question. Why don't you tell me a little bit your thoughts on the source material?
Oh, okay. So this is, I would say, so far up there with one of my favorites. Like Chamber of Secrets right now still is my favorite Harry Potter book. This is a close second. I really enjoyed this one.
Genuinely glad you said that. Like, for me, so far it goes Chamber, Goblet, Azkaban, Stone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just good. No, it's what's really nice about it is, I think the expansion, the continuing expansion of the wizarding world.
Right.
That's the most fascinating thing to me. Like, I like that a lot I think I mentioned I liked it a lot in Azkaban, where you start to hear about these stories of how they were trying to hide wizards from Voldemort, and
right.
It became a much more perilous, situation.
And because the book's so much longer, you don't lose anything.
Right. This, I think, even goes further, because we get like the nice big Quidditch World Cup scene at the beginning, where you it's not just like, oh, these are people from other schools, like they talk about, oh, here's like the Romanian delegation, and these people are fans of Ireland's team, and then,
right,
this sort of thing. It's just the idea of like a much larger world. And then, of course, when the other schools show up, and you find out that they have a different sort of viewpoint on like teaching of magic, right? Because
right.
It seems like the French school is very much more about the, I guess I want to say like a proper sort of thing. Like,
it's almost like an etiquette school.
Right,
of magic.
Right, exactly. It's not necessarily you're going to use magic in a legitimate sense or in the real world like this. Like, no, this is our refinery magic school. This is where you're learning to become lords and ladies of magic, not blue collar magicians. And then, of course, you have the Eastern European school, which I don't think they ever really explain where they're from.
Right, but that whole school's basically school Slytherin.
right. Like they're very into the dark arts, but it almost like not evil, right? It doesn't seem like they're into it in a very evil way, like Slytherin is.
Although their headmaster is a former Death Eater,
right?
To be fair,
right, but still, like, it feels like they're very they feel very much like the Sith who just aren't really into killing people, right? It's kind of like yeah, come on, some of this shit has uses.
They very much fit with the school you would imagine whose most famous student is basically a football player. Do you know what I mean? They're that school.
Right.
They're the football team school.
Yeah,
the fraternity school.
Right. Like, everyone shows up wearing with shaved heads and
right.
Whatever. Nothing against shaved heads. Whatever. Shave your head. I don't care. But no, I like it a lot. And then using future knowledge a little bit that I've read of Phoenix so far, which I haven't finished yet, but I have read some. This may be the last, maybe not the last, but this might be the most sympathetic I am towards Harry in this book. Because even in the other ones, like, I had some sympathy for him in Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone, whatever.
Well, he's at his most innocent there.
Right, he's innocent, but you never really feel like he's actually in peril because of how goofy the book is.
Right. Right, because it's just a silly, almost cartoony adventure story,
right,
really.
Right. In Chamber Secrets, I think he is a little whiny at times in that one.
Right. I also feel like I like Chamber of Secrets, but I also feel like it's the one where he's the most passive.
Right. Okay, I don't mean whiny. He's actually, I think, the most, dense in Chamber of Secrets.
Well, a big problem with Chamber of Secrets is it relies on, and this is something that I would say you will see more through the series too, but it relies on him fundamentally not being willing to give up critical information because he's worried what people think of him.
Right.
Which he does repeatedly, right?
Yeah. Prisoner of Azkaban, he's very angsty in that one, I mean, and for good reason, he knows that for what he knows is his parents' killers are is on the loose.
Yeah.
I can't talk today. But he's still kind of like emo in that one. He's like, I'm gonna find him and I'm gonna kill him. That whole thing. This one, I think Harry is actually legitimately sympathetic. He didn't put his name in the cup. He didn't, even though him and Ron were talking about it. He was never going to go through with it. He wasn't going to put his name in. He wasn't going to try to get the glory or anything like that. But even people conspired against him, and even so much so he makes it a point at the beginning of the book to be like, I just want to be integrated into the wizarding world. I'm tired of being an outsider. Right. And so he goes to the World Cup and he's having a great time. He's like, oh, this is the first time I've seen this amount of wizards in one place and this is great. It's cool. These are my people. I finally feel at home. And bam, Death Eaters show up. Bam, his name gets thrown into the cup and he doesn't want anything to do with it. Bam, he gets sucked into it. People are accusing him of putting his name in and cheating the system, and bam, there's the crazy reporter who's making lies about him and twisting the truth on him.
I think she's a great character, though.
I hate her.
I like that character.
But
I like that character a lot.
All these sort of things happen, and this is this book was straight up, let's fuck with Harry as much as possible book.
I'd say what I like about it, though. I think it's fair to say, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think it's fair to say this is where the series turns more adult, right? This is the turning point in the series. But actually, for the vast majority of this book, this is one of the most lighthearted and fun Harry Potter books.
Oh yeah, right up until
most of its length.
Yeah, right up until the end.
And then right at the end, it turns on a dime in a way kids' books don't do very often.
Right.
And I kind of like there is that bit at the end where they say, you know, everything's changed now, hasn't it? It won't be the same, you know?
Right.
And they're right. And so it's kind of and so much of the book is concerned with, like, you know, getting a date for the dance and all that stuff.
I love that bit. God, that's fun.
The whole this book's subplots are genuinely really good. And it's really kind of this last sort of moment of innocence for the series, really. Yeah. You know? And it really is beautiful. And again, calling back to what I said about Chamber of Secrets, one of the things that really makes this book work is the plot with Mad-Eye Moody and Barty Crouch Jr. Works. It's solid, it's established, it's well written. It plays properly based on... It does rely a little bit on you remembering a lot of stuff about Polyjuice Potion from Chamber of Secrets.
I mean, yes and no.
A little bit. It's established enough, but it's written with the idea that you will have read that book, which is fair. That's fine to do. But it works pretty well, I think, the Mad-Eye Moody situation, you know? Because what I kind of like about it is you get the sense that Barty Crouch has picked just the right guy, because Mad-Eye Moody himself is just unhinged enough and unpredictable enough that you can basically fuck up and act like a total dick, or screw up and just happen to lead things the right way, you know?
Right.
And I think you'll have seen this in Order of the Phoenix, you'll have been this far. They cut it out of the movie, I think, but there's that brilliant moment at the beginning of Order of the Phoenix when he's like, "It's nice to see you again, Professor," and he's like, this is pretty much the first time we've met.
right, yeah.
All right, so should we move on from the just talking about the book?
Yeah, I like the book. I think it's pretty good.
It's one of my favorites. Like, I don't know if it would be like best or second best, but it's one of my favorite books too.
Like, okay, I think for me, I would say that this is that fun high school teen rom-com.
Right.
You know, this is the Teen Wolf. You know, the Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf. You know.
Oh, you know what I would say? Chamber's my favorite of the short books. Goblet's my favorite of the long ones.
Yeah.
That's a fair way to break it up. Because they're quite different. You know, there's some purity to those short books you lose getting longer. Alright, so... I've forgotten our questions again. We didn't write these down. So the first question, of course, was, were you familiar with the source material? Were you familiar with the movie?
Okay. What were the questions?
Do you think the movie works as an adaptation?
Yeah. I think as well as it could.
Right.
They cut out a lot, and I don't think they cut out anything that's vastly important, except for like one little thing. But it's not. I guess it doesn't have that much of a bearing on things, but like because we completely lose the Elf Liberation Front.
Yes.
Or Spew.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even see Dobby.
Right. We don't see Dobby. We don't see. Oh, we see Dobby. Yeah.
In this film, do we?
Yeah. Don't we?
When?
Oh, maybe we don't. We definitely see Winky.
No, we don't. No house elves in this one.
Oh, that's right. Because they don't. You're right. They changed that in the movie because in the book it's a huge plot point that Winky is there, in the seat, in the viewing box. Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where if you're gonna get rid of something, if you're gonna get rid of one plot point to free up time, that's something that's gonna free up a lot of time. The downside is that's the plot that Hermione spends most of her time with in that book.
Right.
That's Hermione's plot. And so actually in the movie, she doesn't really do much.
Well, they kind of change it up a little bit. Or not want to change it up, but they play up her going after the reporter much more.
Right. And Crumb. Like, Crumb is and that jealousy is part of the book.
Yeah.
But that becomes her central story in the movie.
Right. Does it?
Well, I mean, as much as she has a central story in the movie.
Right.
Because in the book, you've got this thing where Ron thinks the whole spew thing's a little bit dumb, right? And they're already kind of at loggerheads a little bit when you get to the dance, right?
Right.
Whereas in the movie, they have to play up Ron's jealousy more.
Right. But yeah, this is also the first scene, because, I mean, I know what's coming. I know a little bit about how this shit all ends, but I mean, I didn't live under a rock. But this is where we start to get our first hints of maybe something between those two.
Right.
Which is nice.
They handle it as well as they could in the movie, I think.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to bring that up. I think that the movie works well enough as an adaptation in that we get the main plot points and
right.
Certain things, that didn't happen or happened in the book, made sure they happened here. That whole 9 yards. But we do lose, I think, quite a bit of the Barty Crouch Jr. story.
Yes. It still works, but whereas in the book it works very well and it's very established, the movie's really confined to seeing Barty Crouch at the beginning.
And seeing him at the end.
Seeing him at the end. The one reference of Snape when he thinks that Harry's been stealing the ingredients to make Polyjuice Potion. And the scene where Barty Crouch Jr.'s dad dies. Barty Crouch Sr. dies. And those are the main developments. But there isn't time to really let that plot gestate.
Right.
I think.
I mean, because he's such a... His motivation suddenly just becomes... for Voldemort. Right? He becomes a really one-note character in the movie. Whereas in the book, there's some little bit more interesting stuff about him. Like the idea that, his dad was so committed to the job that he had time for his children.
Right.
And,
They try and get it across, but they don't do much with it.
No.
It is very well acted, though, that scene when his dad sees Mad-Eye Moody, Barty Crouch as Mad-Eye Moody, and you could tell that he knows.
Right.
Very well shot. I do think it's funny. Can you imagine casting David Tennant in something now and only having him in that much?
Right.
But I do love that scene when they've got, what's his name, the headmaster of Crumb's school in the trial. It's the flashback.
Right.
They've got him on trial and he's spilling the beans. And he finally starts dropping information about Barty Crouch and it pans over to him and he's like, doop-a-doop-a-doo, gotta get out of the room.
Well, that's my cue. Time for me to skedaddle.
I liked that. I thought it was pretty fun. But yeah, well, it's almost so bad in the movie that I once was looking up what David Tennant had been at years ago, and it said he was Barty Crouch Jr. And it'd been a while since I'd read the books, and I couldn't remember who that was in the film. I was like, who is that? What?
I guess we'll get into this more. We can get into it now. It makes more sense. Also, the opening of the book and the movie, the same events sort of happened, but they happened much differently. When the Death Eaters attack. So in the book, it does something very strange. Or not strange, but the Death Eaters show up and have a bunch of muggles suspended in the air, and they're basically twisting their bodies around and contorting them and making them into unnatural shapes and shit like that. It really comes off as really creepy. And, excuse me. God, sorry, I had something stuck in my throat.
Oh, it's alright.
but they're it's really creepy. Like they're twisting people around. It's really gross sounding, at least. In the movie, they make it seem like a full on attack on the camp, and not even. But both of them come off weird, right? Because neither one makes a lot of sense to me. Because in the book, you're like, okay, these Death Eaters show up and they have all these muggles, blah, 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 blah. But, like, they're just parading through this camp full of wizards who theoretically all have the ability to, like, put a stop to this. But they don't. Instead, they freak the fuck out and everyone starts running for the hills.
I guess the idea is that everybody's still terrified of Death Eaters, though.
I guess.
Right?
I guess.
I will say, just on the subject of forward knowledge again, not to do too much, but you have read some of Order of the Phoenix, right?
Yes.
I'm guessing you're far enough in that we can talk a little bit about it without me spoiling anything.
Sure.
But a major plot point in Order of the Phoenix is that the Ministry doesn't believe that Voldemort's back, and they think Dumbledore's after his job.
Yeah.
The Minister. Like, the Death Eaters were showing up before he came back. They attached the Quidditch World Cup. You were there, Cornelius Fudge.
Right.
You were there at the time.
Yeah, but the weird thing how they film is in the movie, right? They film this opening scene as if like it's the opening to Terminator, where it's all these people like holding hands, running for the hill, like there's like lasers going across in the sky and
Hermione held onto this like mesh fence, and a blast just.
Yeah, just like. And yeah, it just became just weird. Like it feel like I get that all these people are freaking out about it, so I'm supposed to be like, oh shit, this is scary. But there's nothing in either version of that seem at all threatening. You know, like
right.
It seems
unless you're a Muggle,
right? Unless you're someone being all twisted around and shit. But even then, it's just like.
And they don't really establish in the movie that they're torturing Muggles.
No, they don't. They don't touch on it.
Which is a bit of a weird thing. Because I will say the thing that you lose in the movies is a lot of the information about exactly what Voldemort hates and why.
Right.
And that's fine. They're gonna dumb it down politically a little bit because that takes nuance and time. You know, that's what you lose in the books. I think this movie. I think it is as good as you can do without making the movie of an absurd length, right? Like they keep talking about maybe one day they're gonna remake Harry Potter as like a Game of Thrones style series, and it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Because the first few books you'd have to expand, right? Mm-hmm. And then as you went on, it would get easier to be truer to it, I guess.
Right. I mean, would you want each season to be a book?
Well, that's the difficulty, isn't it? Because if you just go by how many pages you've then got the issue where your first season you would do 2 books maybe. Later on you're going to need a season
of having two climaxes in a season.
Exactly. So I think you'd have to do it that way. You'd have to expand and update and mature up Stone and Chamber and Azkaban a little bit.
Let's just get the same writers and directors from Game of Thrones on it. There's a scene of just McGonagall coming out of a water, a bath, just fully nude and
still Maggie Smith.
Still Maggie Smith. I'd be into it.
Well, she's the best actress in these movies. Why not? Yeah, I'd watch that. I think that would actually be really interesting. But
or Dumbledore coming out of the bathtub.
Which one? Richard Harris?
Which one's still alive?
Michael Gambon.
Yeah, let's go with him.
But I think this movie works. So for me, I'm gonna get into things that you haven't got to yet, but I'm gonna keep it vague. But for me, this movie strikes the balance between having to cut stuff out, but still preserving everything you need for the movie to still make sense. As these movies go on, I think you're going to get to more and more stuff cut out. The same way we were both disappointed with Azkaban, that they cut out fundamentally the explanation of what the entire book was about.
Right.
I think there's going to be more of that after this. My personal opinion is, I'm not going to spoil it in any way, but my personal opinion is that if you hadn't read the book Half-Blood Prince, the movie would make no sense.
Right.
Or very little. But then I've never done it that way, so... but this one, I think it captures the tone of the book for the most part. I think it captures everything it needs to. But you lose... in the same way that the book basically is kind of like a growing up, like a moving on from the innocent period of the previous movies, and it tries to shed a few things, and it's a slow transition from early on in the book. It feels just like another Harry Potter book, and then as it goes on, it gets more and more serious and more adult. The book really doesn't have... there's nothing left of Chamber in this movie. Sorry, the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's nothing left of that period of Harry Potter right from the beginning. But I will say one thing for this movie. I'm not someone who is ordinarily impressed by special effects because, hey, you just do them on the computer and it's done. Mm-hmm. But I will say, that ship scene where the ship comes out of the water still gets me every time. Yeah. I think it's amazing. I think it's fantastic. And I also like the dragon scene. Yeah, they're really good. Because we were watching this the other day, Beth and I, and we were talking about the fact that Game of Thrones dragons don't look substantially better than that now.
Right.
You know, not massively. I had forgotten something. And I'm guessing this is in the book too. We'll move on to the next question in a bit, but I'd forgotten that when he's like, I'm not allowed a broom, and he's like, you're allowed a wand. And I couldn't remember how this played out, so I was like, oh, is he going to be like, he'll take like a stick and some other stuff, and he'll like do the spell on a stick that turns it into a broom, and then actually just did like the fetch broom spell.
Right.
And I was like, how does that how does that match with not being allowed a broom?
I guess it's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you can't walk in with the broom, but like...
Right, but if you can accio anything, what's the point in having any rules on what you're allowed in there?
Like,
Accio dragon killing potion.
I was about to say, Accio this giant lance that comes.
They also cut a lot of Hagrid's relationship with what's her name? Maxine out, I think. Which, you know, again, not hugely important, right. But yeah. Anything else you want to say about an adaptation? No,
I think we covered it.
All right, so Jonathan, what do you think of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire as a movie in its own right?
I thought it was okay. I think we're definitely getting to that point. I think we were already there with Prisoner, but this is no longer a movie that you can go in without some other knowledge of Harry Potter.
Right.
It's and as it's intended to be. I'm not suggesting that.
Sure.
Like they were trying to do this.
I'll take it a step further though. I don't think
this is a wonderful installment of the franchise.
I'll also say I don't think you can necessarily go into this having just seen the previous movies a little bit. I think we're leaning into this because as we mentioned last time, they don't establish properly in Azkaban that he hasn't cleared Sirius's name. Mm-hmm. And yet, Sirius is still on the run in this one. And there's a lot of references in this to things that happen in the... Like, for example, we talked about... It's only a minor thing, but we talked about how they don't explain who made the Marauders map and all that stuff in the Azkaban movie. And yet, you know, they keep calling him Wormtail, and you know what I mean? All that stuff.
I think that might be the biggest one for me, is that they start using that name. Like, that stuck out to me.
It feels like it's made from the book, but not as a sequel to the previous movie, to me.
We're also dealing with... This is a new director again, right?
I believe so, yeah. Let me take a look.
Yeah, why don't you... Because the last one was Curon, right? Or Quaron, or how I can't remember his last name.
Quan. It was directed by Quan. This was directed by Mike Newell, who I do not know. He directed Four Weddings at a Funeral, apparently.
Oh. Feels very... What?
I don't know. And Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time.
Oh.
That great hit. That movie I literally always forget exists.
Yeah, me too. Actually.
Which we're going to have to talk about on this fucking show one day, aren't we?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think he only did Goblet of Fire. That's the only one he directed.
And, who did the last one? It was...
Let me take a look. I'll pull up all the directors and we'll see how many of them had the same director. I think only the first two, and I think the last one has...
He did Donnie Brasco too, wow.
Okay, so Chris Columbus did the first one, we knew that. So I'm just gonna roll by one at a time. It'd be easy if they still had that, oh, there we go. And then Chris Columbus did the second one. And then, Alfonso Cuarón,
Okay.
who did... Oh, he did Children of Men. Wow, the same person who did Children of Men did Prisoner of Azkaban? Yep. That's embarrassing. I don't like that movie. I think it's one of the weakest. I think it's the weakest one we've seen so far.
I think he also did Gravity, didn't he?
Maybe. So Mike Newell did Goblet of Fire. And then when we get to Phoenix, that's David Yates. Oh, wow, okay. Man, I can't believe I didn't know the directors of these. He did the Fantastic Beasts films, David Yates.
Yeah, they brought him back, I believe.
Well, I think, not to get into my own personal opinions, but I think Order of the Phoenix is generally considered to be one of the better movies.
Well, I think actually David Yates might have finished it off, didn't he?
David Yates did Half-Blood Prince, and, yeah, Deathly Hallows Part 1, and Deathly Hallows Part 2. So David Yates does all of them from now on, from the next movie on.
Oh my god. So I just see that, Fantastic Beasts, The Cry of Grindelwald, and all of a sudden, Fantastic Beasts, and we're to find him 3, 4, 5. There's gonna be 5 of these fucking things?
Yeah. There was gonna be 5 from before the first one came out.
Really?
Yeah, well, considering Crimes of Grindelwald has done really badly, though.
Right.
You'd think they'd be refining that. Have they recast Johnny Depp yet, since that's what everybody hates, I wonder?
Oh.
I don't get that, though. I don't know why it was so controversial to recast Johnny Depp when he spent the entirety of the first movie as Colin Farrell.
Right.
Just make him Colin Farrell again. Done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they cocould have got away with it really early in that film, too. It's like, haha, my true form. Turn back. Okay.
Just have a guy go, oh, I got him with a spell. He won't be able to change form anymore, so we'll know what he looks like.
Right.
Done.
But, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so, as a movie on its own,
You sound thrilled.
It's fine. It's fine. But, like I said, this is no longer... None of these movies are going to be movies that can necessarily exist on their own.
Right.
And this is, I think, the first one that's really like.
I agree.
So that's all I have to really say about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the last of our questions. Are we done?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. No. Well, okay. So all right, let's.
This is the bit where we just talk about whatever we like about the movie.
Yeah.
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 Well, okay. Let's start off with this just as a quick stimulant. Where would you put this so far? Where would you rank this movie so far out of what we've seen? Just to kind of give us an idea.
Maybe second.
After Chamber?
Yeah.
Where would you put Phoenix?
I haven't seen Phoenix.
Sorry, Azkaban. Brain fart.
Probably third.
Ooh, you put Azkaban over Stone?
Yeah, Stone is just too... I know
too much of a 2000s children movie.
Yeah, it's just not good. I mean,
I think it's
admirable what they did with what they had, and they were able to launch the franchise with it. I think that's great. It's admirable. But I think we're talking about, another situation of like A New Hope, right? A New Hope is no one's favorite Star Wars movie, right? But it's there.
We're gonna get letters. I guess my thing is, I suppose this is more of an academic thing, I suppose, than just a pure enjoyment one, but I feel like Philosopher's Stone succeeds in being the movie it is trying to be, through and through, whereas Azkaban, I feel like, fluffs the ending so much. But, you know what? Upon rewatching it, I did enjoy most of it, so I probably wouldn't sit... Like, the only time I'm gonna watch Philosopher's Stone is when I'm watching all the Harry Potter movies.
Right.
I'm not gonna just sit down and be like, yeah, that's the one I really want to see. Whereas Chamber, I could sit and watch Chamber anytime.
Right. I mean, and for me, I think... I don't really see myself going out of my way to watch any of these, like, just for the sake of it. I started watching them specifically because of this decision I made to actually digest the whole Harry Potter thing. That came out wrong. That came out real wrong.
I just thought you were a basilisk. Whoa, we got the references in.
Not the right movie. I can see myself flipping through channels and coming to Prisoner and going, alright. Where if I came to Sorcerer's Stone, I'd be like, no, alright. I'll keep going.
What if it was Philosopher's Stone? You got to see all that sweet new footage you didn't see before.
It's just every time they say Sorcerer's Stone, they just did another take of them going Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, it's a completely different movie.
What if they ran them simultaneously? Right? So every time it got to that scene, it would be them saying both at the same time. Just...
In the Philosopher's Stone cut of the movie, when it gets to the end, right, and he's getting the stone out, he grabs the stone, and the stone goes, "Oh, do you really have the stone? Can you prove that you have the stone? Can you even prove that you exist?" What?
Like, great. My Philosopher's Stone is using the Aristotle method. Just
Harry Potter and the Solipsist Stone. How do you know there is a stone? How do you know you're not a brain in a jar, eh?
It's like, I got it. I got the Philosopher's Stone. God is dead and we killed him. Shit. Of course. I had to get the Nietzsche Stone. Why couldn't I get the Bertrand Sart stone? Fuck everything.
What you got that, Harry? Is that the Descartes stone? I don't think so. Harry, where did you go?
So what Philosopher's Stone did you get? Oh, nothing. But don't mind me. I'm going to go rally the people to my cause and campaign against the current rulers of the thing. And you got the Machiavelli Stone. God damn it! Yeah, I got the Machiavelli Stone. Shit.
And Hermione's like, oh, Ron, you've been really rude ever since you got that Jordan Peterson stone. No respect for me at all. Your bed is incredibly tidy, though. Props to
you. Hermione just kicks open the door. God! It's all God! Oh, she got the Kierkegaard one. Just...
An extraordinary leap of faith!
No, as they're trying to go into the Gryffindor, common room, someone just stops. No, don't go in there. Do not go in there. Why not? Neville got his hand on the Desaad stone.
The idea of Neville specifically.
Right. There's your highbrow comedy for the day, motherfuckers.
And at least one person here is like, look, I know what the Philosopher's Stone is in Harry Potter, but who are all these other people? So confused. Is that a Grindelwald thing? Is Nicholas Flamel involved?
Yeah, were these all dark wizards? Well, in a sense, since they were.
Well, Neville was.
After that night, he was.
But, no, it's pretty good, Goblet of Fire, I think. It's
yeah.
okay.
We're talking about Goblet of Fire.
For years, I used to have an HD DVD player.
HD DVD.
And the trailer at the front of the HD DVD player was the shot of the French students walking into the hall and fawning butterflies and things. Is it just me? Like, they do deliberately, like, put the cameras on the arses and have the children comment on that, right?
Yeah, they do that. It was... So, real quick, what is, the director's nationality? I forgot who it was again.
What was his name? Mike Newell, I think it was.
So definitely British.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you that he likes big butts and he cannot lie.
He was born March 28th, 1942. St. Albans, Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire. It's pronounced like an A.
Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
Hertfordshire.
He did the old 1970s Man in the Iron Mask, too. I didn't realize that.
So, is it possible that he may have some of that French hatred going on?
I don't think the French came off that badly.
Oh, they do! It's first they kind of stroll in going, oh, we're better than all of you. We're French. We're some from St. Beaumaton's Academy. Look at our food's so much better there. Blah, blah. And then, like, when it gets to, like, the first trial or whatever, where it's like, oh, we gotta get the
That
A.
is kind of how the book's written, though, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, but it's...
Well, they're sort of written more like, almost like, spiritual figures.
Well, so, when it gets to, like, the first trial, they're going against, like, the dragon, right? Everyone pulls it off, okay? And they kind of show everyone afterwards, like, with their egg. And she's, like, just laying there, like, scorched, like, but she did it. And then the next trial, she's too scared, right? She's a coward and surrenders to her fear. And Harry has to save her sister for her. And then when we get to the maze, right? So in the book, right? And this is where I think it changes quite dramatically, right? In the book, she gets ambushed by Crumb.
Right.
And oh, shit.
Who's been sort of bewitched.
Right. And so what they do is, like, Cedric and Harry come across her, and, like, oh, shit, and they send up the sparks, and then, theoretically, a teacher comes and gets her, right?
Right.
In the movie, they do this, but before any teacher can come get her, she's just, like, absorbed into the maze. It looks like horrible, like, these tentacles that come across her face, and she's just like...
Well, okay. We didn't talk about this in the book section, but is it worth mentioning that this book hits all new heights in Hogwarts' astonishing lack of basic health and safety culture? Because I would argue, at this point, they are trying to kill these children.
Yeah, actively trying to kill these children. Because it's like...
Because they establish, in the movie at least, maybe there's some conciliation in the book, but they establish completely, right, that if those Triwizard competitors didn't rescue their friends, they would be dead.
Right.
And they put them down there.
Yeah, they do not... Yeah, in the book, they make a point to say, like, oh yeah, no, they were all fine. Like, once the time limit was going down, they would have been brought back to the surface automatically by magic and all.
In the movie, no, they killed those fucking kids.
Right.
That was the plan.
Well, like, also in the movie, right? So, this is the part that I was like, So, in the first trial, right, they're like, oh, you're fighting dragons. What? We're fighting dragons? What? Like, oh, don't worry. If it gets too bad, we have people on staff that's going to take care of it. So, whose decision was it? Like, who was supposed to be the one going, hey, this has gone too far, we should step in, when Harry is flying for his fucking life across the campus with a rampaging dragon.
I also like when they go, okay, it's an inter-school competition. It's supposed to see who's the most skilled wizard in a trial of dangers.
You can't use magic.
So, 4 of the same dragons then, equally dangerous?
No.
Let's have a random choice of dragons. Some ranging from quite docile and easy to deal with. Some ranging from very dangerous that the dragon's own keeper describes as nasty and you wouldn't want to get near.
Like, there's no handler quick enough to, like, save Harry or anyone if that tail comes whipping around and one of those spikes embeds in their forehead. Like,
right, this is the equivalent, because the thing is, a lot of the stuff that happens in the wizarding world is just relative to, like, magic. Like, Quidditch it would be more dangerous for a muggle who had a broom, right?
Right.
But we also see that the school nurse is capable of repairing more extensive injuries, right? So it's not that different to going and playing a game of football or something like that, right?
Yeah, but Dead's dead.
But this is the equivalent of an inter-school competition where the teachers throw you in a pit with a lion.
Right. Yeah, I'm on the varsity lion taming club.
But first they let you choose between a lion, a rhinoceros, a tiger, and like a fucking stonefish. You know, one of those instantly poisonous fish?
Like a ferret, you know, just like,
Right, the first person to draw gets, everyone's gonna draw cats, and the first person to draw gets like a fucking Persian, like, oh, okay, great. Next person gets like an ocelot. Next person gets like an ocelot, like, okay, fair enough, yeah, okay, got it. Third person, you know, it's some sort of jaguar. Well, it's big, but we'll work around it. Third person, like a fucking, like the, like the white Siberian tiger. And they've been flicking its bollocks all day in the cage, like, rah, go on!
It's the battle cat from He-Man. Just...
Nothing like a bit of fair competition. She's just gonna get the egg from, you know, a cat. Yeah, that's what you've got. A cat. Cat. 4 cats.
What I would have loved this scene is like, oh, I'm sorry, Victor Crumb can no longer continue the competition. Why is that? Is put like a bucket of ashes on the table. He can no longer hold his wand.
And then at the end, look, I get that's not exactly what happens, but they come back with Cedric and he's dead, right? And everyone's like, oh my god, the child we sent into the maze of bewitchings and killer plants came back dead.
I mean, not to mention in the book, they don't show it in the movie, but in the book, they fight like a massive spider, like like a poisonous spider, like, I think, like, doesn't Harry get like a fang through his, like, his shoulder or something like that?
We have to establish that the Wizarding World
are lunatics.
They have literally no concern about endangering the lives of children, but they still feel sad when children die.
Right.
Which is a really weird thing to do.
You know, it's like, it's very much like the factories of the industrial age, you know? Where kids were getting the black lung and dying, and they're going, oh no, how'd this happen?
They keep talking about it too. So Hermione's like, people die in this tournament, and he's like, I could be killed. And then when someone dies, they go, what? Why does Hogwarts host it here? Why do they host the tournament where children die regularly enough that Hermione mentions it?
Well, it's also so there's a critical point in the book and movie where Ron and Harry have a little bit of a tiff with each other. And it's Ron going, oh, he wants all the glory for himself. He just wants to be famous Harry Potter, blah, blah, blah. And Harry Potter going, no, someone put me into this tournament to kill me. And it's like, wait a minute. So, if this tournament is so dangerous that a murderer thinks it's key to his plot to murder a child, maybe
right.
it shouldn't.
That Harry thinks this is plausible.
Right.
I mean, we find out that's not the exact scheme. He wants Harry to win.
Right.
Which is clever, actually. I kind of like that they establish at the beginning what a portkey is. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, it's a portkey. I think that works.
It's very Chekhov's gun.
But subtle.
Right.
So you're not really aware of it. But I mean, okay. Like, this is not the only bullshit with the Triwizard Tournament, okay? It's called the Triwizard Tournament. Because 3 wizards enter. Harry Potter does not put his name in the Goblet of Fire, but someone else does. And this is in the enchanted goblet that presumably the Ministry or Hogwarts, whoever runs this fucking competition, owns and operates. They control the magic. Unless it was made like 1,000 years ago and nobody knows how it works. In which case, just stop holding the tournaments. What's going to happen if you don't? Is it like a nuke that's going to explode?
Well, no, because they say very early like they hadn't have it for a very long time. This was like a initiative to increase was it community among wizards?
The death tournament.
Yeah. Nothing really spurns, and gets people together across nations. Like the murdering
death on
of
foreign
children.
soil. Children who don't come home from foreign lands after their school beat your child in a competition,
What they should do, they should have a cut to like the parents, or it's like, oh hey, by the way, your daughter Fleur was chosen for Triwizard. No,
it's like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I volunteer tribute.
But then, when 3 names come out, they're all about the rules. Then 3 names come out, and they go, well, this is not possible. The boy obviously cheated. This is ridiculous. Never mind that not only did he apparently cheat in such a way where he got past all Dumbledore's spells, but also, ensured his name came out even after 3 people have been picked.
Right.
That would work.
Right.
But then they go, well, no, the cup specific. The rules are very clear. The cup is chosen.
Well, and that's my thing. It's like
change the rule then.
Well, it's like, oh, it's a binding contract. What's the
with who?
Yeah, exactly.
What happens if you don't?
What's the
cup
penalty?
Gonna sue?
What's you?
I want to see that.
I mean, and that's the thing too. Is like no one says that he has to compete in those specific events either, right? It's like, okay, well, by law,
just give him a little participation ribbon.
Right,
well, you competed.
It's like, by law, Harry does have to complete 3 tasks. It's like, here, Harry, make me a cup of tea.
Pick up my laundry.
Harry, can you pull the straw from his paper wrapper? Oh look, Harry completed his 3 tasks.
He wins.
All right, let's get on with this.
I do want to watch the whole Harry Potter movie where it's the Goblet of Fire and a little suit and tie suing them for breach of contract. it's just sat there in a little courtroom.
You contract me nothing.
My client, specifically named Mr. Harry Potter, as a contestant.
Mr. Fire. Can I call you Mr. Fire? Or you prefer? Well, my full name is Of Fire. Okay, Mr. Of Fire. Can you point out the man who betrayed your trust in this courtroom? Him! He did it.
Mr. Fire, you don't have arms. Could you sort of lean in the direction, please?
He's doing like a little spark that way. Just... let the record show that the Goblet of Fire threw a fireball at Mr. Harry Potter, clearly meaning that he is the one identified as the perpetrator.
And there's literally, there's nobody else complaining about breach of contract. Like, aside from briefly, Maxine's like, well, he obviously cheated, this is outrageous, but, none of the other schools are like, oh, Hogwarts have got two contestants now? We're off. They've just doubled their chance of winning, have they? Great.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. They're about to leave. They're just about to pull themselves from the competition.
I mean, it's very convenient, is what I'm saying. It's not terrible. Once you get over that, the whole Triwizard thing's actually pretty fun.
Well,
I think
it's very much like it's one of those things where it feels like it's constructed in such a way we need to get Harry Potter in the tournament, and B, we need a sacrificial lamb at the end. Right. So now we need to twist the rules enough to get both Cedric and Harry into this tournament.
I mean, he could have just made friends with Crumb. You know what I mean? Right. But I mean, it's such a strange thing. I guess they wanted the fact that he got chosen to be more than just... I guess J.K. Rowling wanted it to be more than just random chance. And they wanted you to know there was something wrong with him getting chosen right from the start. So we have this mystery element. But it doesn't really work. I think the other highlight of the movie for me is tiny baby Voldemort. Who, I wish he'd just stayed like that. Everything else in the scenes just play out as normal, but just have him a little ditty with his little arms, Same fights and everything, but just have, Timothy Spall carrying him the whole time.
Like one of those, baby carriers.
Yeah, a little papoose, yeah.
Turn me around. Oh, shit, sorry.
This is our first introduction of the Ralph Fiennes Voldemort.
Yes.
Finally. Because, Voldemort's cropped up more often than you would expect, right? When I first read Harry Potter, I expected Voldemort to sort of come, to be involved, but then, he turns up at the end, and I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but it's different. And then Chamber of Secrets, I wasn't expecting to be Voldemort again the first time I read it. And then it is kind of a surprise, it sort of works. Azkaban, I think that's the first one, no Voldemort, really. He's pretty much not in it. And then in this one, he's back, and everybody knows he's back, basically. It's openly the first book that is about Voldemort, because right at the beginning, he has that dream.
Right. Wait, by the way, okay, I don't know. I've never been to England. I'm not familiar with your old people.
They don't look like that anymore.
What's that?
They don't look like that anymore. It's a very 1950s old person.
Well, yeah. But there's also this this idea of turn me around so he reminds me of Krang in that
Traitor!
Turn me around as you might cast.
Attack that Rome!
Oh no. He used to get that real deep voice randomly, So they turn around, and the old guy's real mildly shocked at what he's seeing.
Wouldn't it be good if you just burst out laughing, oh, a little baby man!
Oh, look at you! You're adorable. Well, I'm just saying, the old people I know in my life are much more, if they had turned around and they would have seen that, they would have been their initial response would have been what the fuck is that? Just
the old people I know wouldn't have gone to check on the light. They'd have been what are they doing? Selfish fucking neighbors. Turn up the TV really loud, Voldemort's trying to have the conversation like, Wormtail, and what is is that EastEnders getting louder and louder and louder from across the cemetery grounds? Who's banging on the door? We're trying to watch TV here.
It's like, but
time to go to bed.
Wormtail, what is that sound I'm hearing? He's here. I see you, baby. Sugar ass. Sugar ass. Sugar ass. Is that what music's become since I've gone? Sugar ass.
So I suppose we should say, get to the big serious thing then. So the bit everybody remembers from this book is the big emotional finale. Cedric dies. Harry has that fight. How do you think they pulled this off in the movie? What do you think?
You know what? This is a part that I didn't like in the book or the movie. Honestly, it just look. I get it. Like Cedric is not the important character really in this scene. Like he is very much fridged, for lack of a better term.
I think there's a genuine narrative purpose to it, which is they wanted to immediately establish that the stakes were real now.
Right. But, like, he goes down like a punk. Like, no, he doesn't put up any sort of fight. It's just kind of like they show up and go, where are we? Abracadabra. What? You know.
Abracadabra.
Or whatever.
Fuck. Every muggle-born wizard with a magic set just popping off the parents.
But, what is the term?
Avada Kedavra.
It's basically abracadabra.
Similar. There used to be a villain in the Powerpuff Girls called Abracadabra that was a zombie of a magician. Which I just thought was funny. Abracadabra. Yeah, of course. It's, it's supposed to sound like that. It's just funny. Anyway. Carry on.
Yeah. So, it's like, I didn't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he went down like a punk against the most powerful evil wizard of all time.
Sure, but
which Harry then fails to do a moment later. He survives.
Right.
If only there were friendly ghosts that knew Cedric living in his wand.
And that's also very much the thing too. It's like we finally, I don't even know. Finally, I think it's sort of like I feel like it's one of the things where like JK's writing this, going, okay, well, how do I construct a scenario where Harry survives this encounter?
How can his parents coincidentally save the day again?
Oh yeah, that's right. I did the whole wand thing where they have the phoenix or two. It just so happens that when two wands use opposing spells and they happen to come from the same animal, and this,
which they don't establish in the movie at all.
No.
In the movie, it just goes, "You saw your parents, didn't you? Yeah, why? Not telling you. Peace. Dumbledore out. Woo."
Knowing that information could save your life someday. We can't have that.
Because, like, in the first movie, he's saved by the fact that, like, there's the mirror, and there's the fact that Voldemort still can't touch him because of the old curse, right? So it's still the old parents' protection. In the second one, he's sort of saved by his faith in Dumbledore. Just at the last minute. In the third one, he's saved by himself from the future, really, in the third one, but he thinks it's his parents. Sort of coincidental combination of magic. This is another one where he's saved by, and suddenly this!
Mm-hmm.
Not quite a Deus Ex Machina, but it's a, Joe, it's not a bad moment, but it is one of those things where it's like, oh, it turns out this. I do like, however, that they establish in the movie, and it's straight from the book, but it's pretty well established that because he used Harry Potter's blood to restore himself, Harry Potter is no longer, like, poisonous to him.
Right.
That's a good way of getting around that after you've established it in the first one, you know? What did you think of Ralph Fiennes as...
I thought it was,
Captain No-Nose.
I thought he was a little bit, wayfish than I expected.
Yeah.
like I was kind of very much expecting, like, like a oh, Harry Potter, I'm your worst enemy, that kind of thing. But he almost comes off as like, oh, Harry Potter, my enemy. It's like, what was that?
I actually love this performance.
Oh, I think it's
one of my highlights.
I think it's actually very good.
Because it's not what you expect at all.
Right.
You know? And he is different. He's almost likable. You can see why he was a charismatic leader that built people up around him.
Right.
But I do also love the bit. It's so well played when Timothy Spall, when Wormtail's lost his arm. And after he's restored, he says, Wormtail, give me your arm. And he's like, oh, thank you, master. And he's like presenting his stump. And he's like, no, the other arm. Just want to get your brand nice and up, you know? Get your tattoo going. And I think that worked out pretty well. He is interesting, Voldemort, in this. And I think it's a nice lead on. It doesn't particularly look like him. Obviously, it's so much prosthetics too.
Right.
But it's a nice lead on from the Tom Riddle, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like it could be the same guy.
Yeah, I would say so.
Believably. And it's very if you think of villains in this universe, you think of like Snape, you know, slow and brooding. But it's very dynamic and moving and active and prancing around and things like that in such a strange way.
So I've seen the trailers for like the other movies and stuff like that, and I know that Voldemort never not wears like the weird shawl thing. Why? Like, what do you have against pants? Like, what are those too muggle for you? Pants?
Most of the adults wear robes, don't they?
Yeah, but not
I guess that's
that.
just his look.
And they also wear shoes, most of them.
I always try and remember if they describe him as looking like that in the book. I feel like they might in Goblet.
They mention his eyes. They mention his eyes are snake eyes.
But I think the noseless thing was their choice, you know?
I think that was creative.
I remember when I first saw this, I felt like when we got to the next few movies, they were going to have him look more human. So I don't know how I feel, because this is, I don't want to do spoilers, but like I say, you've seen other trailers, this is how he looks now. This is Voldemort. And that's fine, there's nothing too wrong with that. But it sort of irked me that they went with a monster. Do you know what I mean? Forever.
Right.
But I guess the idea is sort of corrupted by so much evil magic and immortality magic and that unicorn blood, you know, all that stuff, that there's no true restoration. Because one of the rules of the Harry Potter universe, I think, and one of the things they do establish is that if what you're after is spells that really, like, violate the natural order, if you know what I mean, bringing back from the dead, killing people, things like that, that's magic that takes a toll. Takes a price. Yeah. And that's one of the most interesting things about Voldemort to me.
So does it ever bother you that Ralph Fiennes doesn't pronounce his name Ralph?
No, because it's not that uncommon in Britain. I mean, it's still more common to see it pronounced Ralph, but like there's there are other Ralphs.
Do you know what his full name is?
Oh, he's got a really long one, right?
It's ridiculous. It's Ralph Nathaniel Twizzleton Wykeham Fiennes. Twizzleton!
Of the Boston Twizzletons.
That's a British shit if I ever heard anything. Twizzleton. I feel like he owns a candy shop. Like, go down to Twizzleton's and get me some poppers and fizz baddies.
I will say, I really like Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, so do I.
What's really, if I remember rightly, like, oh yeah, I'm seeing here, it's also, that's a triple barrel surname too, so his surname isn't Fiennes.
Right.
His name is Ralph Nathaniel, and then his surname is Twizzleton Wickham Fiennes.
But he just wouldn't have the same gravitas as an actor. Like, and the winner of the Oscar for Best Actor goes to Ralph Twizzleton.
I would have loved it if he'd just done it like Madonna and just been Twizzleton.
Yeah.
Or like Topol, you know what I mean?
Right.
Twizzleton. Say what you like, though. He's a great actor, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I love him in Bruges.
Yeah, good movie.
That line is, I think, hilarious. Just, Harry, it's an inanimate object. You're a fucking inanimate object! But no, back to Harry Potter. I like what they did with Voldemort. It's unsettling, right?
It works.
Right. Like the weird like tiptoeing back and forth between being overly proper and kind of manic. It is unsettling to me. Like to me, like right. I don't know if it's for you, but like that's kind of an unsettling thing to watch, right?
Yes.
You know, where he goes like, oh, pick up your wand. You know, we have to preserve the niceties of dueling and sort of stuff. And they all of a sudden, pick up the wand. You know, when he starts.
Yeah.
You know, that is a unsettling combination that I've seen in other characters.
You're also, I think, acutely aware that that's probably not what Voldemort was like before he died. Mm-hmm. Like, he is broken.
Right. This is a character who's been through some shit.
He, fucking fucks up his followers, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's much more, mean in the book.
Yes.
To his followers.
I do like that some of his followers are crabs and goyles.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little moment.
You want to know what the most horrifying thing about this movie, or not the movie, but in this story, and they kind of gloss over it a little bit in the movie, but the revelation of Neville's parents.
Yes. That's
terrible. Like,
and the concept of the unforgivable curses in general is interesting.
Yeah. But they really brush over that in the movie. I feel like at one point it was in there, right? The full explanation of Neville's parents. Because they still play off that scene in the classroom the same way. Right, where it's, you know, Neville mentions that curse, the Crucio,
right. but they don't tell you about his parents.
Right. But he still looks shell-shocked at the end of the class, right?
Right. And I mean, it's interesting because one of the things I think the book gets right, and because it's well plotted in this way, and the movie does well too because it's working with the same source material, is they do a good job at having Mad-Eye Moody teach things for the reasons he needs to teach them, mm-hmm. which is to get Harry to win the Triwizard Tournament so that he can deliver him to Lord Voldemort. Mm-hmm. But they also look believably like the things the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher would be teaching.
Right.
Particularly a troubled one. And so, for example, he's trying to befriend Neville because he needs Neville to learn about Gillyweed to give the Gillyweed to Harry. Right? That's a part of the whole process. But that's the stuff you lose. I think they actually deal with that in the next movie more than they do in this one, Neville's parents.
Yeah,
but that's because that whole stuff comes up more.
Right.
And that's the difficulty with doing these. Do you know, I have to say, I think as we get further in, and you can tell that actually switching to David Yates is a very conscious choice, because what we saw in Azkaban and what we see here is these movies aren't being adapted with a thought. Up until this point, they aren't being adapted with sensible thoughts into what they're going to need to do next. Even though there were three or four books out when that first movie came out, they were just doing them episodically. They weren't thinking about stuff, okay, we have to put this in here for later.
Right.
I think. And Neville's parents is one of those things, I think. That it's...
and to be fair, those first three books are not necessarily written as like an interconnected saga.
Right.
They very much feel like, oh, this is a year in Harry's life. And then this is what happens this year. And then this is what happens this year. There's no... I would say that all three of those books, other than references to events that happen in the previous books, could almost be read as individual stories.
Yes. In fact, I think the fact that Tom Riddle's diary turns out to be Voldemort is actually the one little thing in Chamber of Secrets that makes you realize you're dealing with something a little bit different.
Right.
Because prior to Harry Potter, this kind of space of kids' literature and this kind of book, it wouldn't have been like that. It would have just been something different. Mm-hmm. He defeated Voldemort, and then we go on to the next thing. The fact that this is a story about the return of Voldemort to power, not just in the first book, but for the whole run, I found, when I was reading them, to actually be something of a surprise. You know what I mean? But he's back now.
Yeah. He's back.
Are you glad that he's back, or do you think the series would have been better if they'd kept him dead?
So...
Of course, it's probably difficult, because you probably always knew he was coming back.
Yeah, I did, because, like I said, I approached the series much different than most other people did, I imagine. But... I'll give you a little hint about my feelings on Order of the Phoenix. I don't like it right now. I really don't. It would take a very big turnaround in the book for me to be like, yeah, Phoenix. Do
you mind if I ask how far you are?
I am to the point where, I guess the last major thing is Weasley's dad got bit by the snake.
Right. Okay.
So right now they're having Christmas right now at Grimmaild's place.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's gonna take a big, and my biggest issue is if how do I say this? It's too frustrating for me right now, because I get it where you're like, I guess I'm empathizing with the characters, but I'm really not. I'm actually just more frustrated with the writing. Because
I was very disappointed with Order of the Phoenix the first time I read it.
Because like what we have is at the end of Goblet, we have Voldemort back. He's back. There's no if and or but about it. He's back. Right? And then we get in the Order of Phoenix, and for really no reason at all, like, they don't make a very compelling case why the Ministry is, like, not taking this shit seriously. Right? It makes, like, literally, I mean, you even touched on it earlier, is that we have Death Eaters at the beginning of Goblet, like, out and about, not
at an event that Cornelius Fudge, at least in the book, is at.
Right. Like, it makes no sense how secret, and then, like, this sudden turn of, like, oh no, and Dumbledore's actually trying to overthrow me and create his own army, blah blah. Like, I guess there's time for them to explain that later. Like, oh, it's actually Voldemort playing with people's emotions in their heads, and whatever. But right now, I'm just frustrated with it because it's like, how do I explain this? I get what they're going for, right? Where it's Voldemort is really good at sowing discord into people, right? So that's what he's doing, right? Him coming back is he's already sowing that discord into the wizarding community, so they're breaking apart and blah, blah, blah. But he hasn't fucking done anything, really, at this point, other than kill Cedric, that, like, warrants that sort of, like, fear, I guess. Right. And, like, he needs to have done at least one other, like, really bad thing within the books, not just history, but within the books.
I think the idea with Order of the Phoenix is that for Cornelius Fudge, believing that Dumbledore is trying to take over is easier than believing that Voldemort is back. Not just based on the evidence, but based on the fact that Cornelius Fudge really doesn't want it to be true that Voldemort is back. And I sort of agree on that. I think my opinion is, actually, that she wanted Voldemort to come back at the end of Goblet of Fire, but she didn't want to lose just going back to Hogwarts every year in Order of the Phoenix. And so, because the thing about Order of the Phoenix is everybody's trying to pretend that it's business as usual when it's not, right? That's the theme of the book, I would say. Or one of the themes. And so I think it was about really getting the kids back to Hogwarts for another year without, do you know what I mean? But within that universe, that I don't necessarily have a problem with that. The idea that Cornelius Fudge doesn't want to believe that Voldemort's back, because that means his job has suddenly gotten a lot more difficult. I have always found Order of the Phoenix to be frustrating, because for me, this is when I think it starts to be written in such a way where it's... This is when I think she started writing towards a hyper-invested audience rather than a reader who just likes the books. Do you know what I mean? Because it felt like it was piling on reference upon reference and getting convoluted. But I will say, this book and the movie has actually really grown on me over the years. So I was very disappointed when I first read it. I actually quite like it. So my opinion has changed over the years on this one. So we'll get into that more when we get to it. But I will say, I think Dolores Umbridge is a fantastic character. Really interesting in the way... What I like about Dolores Umbridge is she's actually a very particular kind of villain that I think works really well. Dolores Umbridge is a really good example of what unpleasant people who do evil things are really like.
Right.
In that they dress themselves in a cover of concern and moralizing, you know?
Right.
And I think she's interesting. I won't tell you anything about what happens, but
I don't. But it's... So I think one of my biggest issues with Order of the Phoenix, and like I said, we will definitely get this when we get into that book, but I'll say just as a teaser from when we get into it, I would say that my biggest issue is the book is a little unrelenting. It's just kind of bad all around. Like, not like badly written, but like, oh, when Harry's not at Hogwarts, bad shit happens, right? Because right from the get-go, it's, oh yeah, he's back at Privet Drive. Yeah, it sucks. We always know how these books start. It sucks, right? And then, oh shit, he got in trouble and he has to go deal with the Ministry. Oh, that really sucks too. But hey, we're going to Hogwarts next, and
but Dumbledore won't talk to him.
Yeah, Dumbledore won't talk to him. Weird. But now it's like, oh, we're going back to Hogwarts, and what fun adventures are our crew going to get into this summer or this year? None. Yeah. They are going to be systematically oppressed by this bitch in a pink sweater, and like, oh yeah, by the way, Harry's going to have to mutilate himself like for 2 weeks straight. That's great. Hagrid got the shit kicked out of him wherever he was. He's back, and now he's all messed up in the face. All your favorite teachers? Yeah, they're probably out the door. They're going to get fired. Whatever. It's like, it's just so unrelenting. And like, I get it, like, this is the tone that we're setting. But I kind of need a little bit of a break in things. You know what I mean? Like, it's, at least with this kind of book, like, if this was some sort of like hard-hitting, you know, literature book, I would get it. Like War and Peace, I'm not expecting a heartwarming.
I don't know if I can say what I want to say. For me, I like Order of the Phoenix because I consider it to be one of the last that still has fun in it.
I haven't seen any of that. It all sucks.
I know. And that's how I felt about it the first time, but it continues from here on out. Like, I'm not gonna... I don't want to spoil anything, but just to talk in general terms, Half-Blood Prince, the movie at least, is one of the most dour experiences I've ever seen. Deathly Hallows might be the most feel-bad children's book for the majority of its fucking length.
Right.
That is a miserable book. I don't even mean bad. I enjoyed reading it the first time, but we're into Sad Potter now, basically. I guess.
Well,
I wonder what you're gonna think of those split movies. They're an interesting beast.
Because they're like one of the first ones that did that too.
Yeah, I didn't mind though because I probably mentioned this last week.
We've talked about it.
Yeah. I hated that they did it to Mockingjay though.
Right.
Well, all right. Do we have anything else to say about that? What should we?
Really. I'm kind of.
All right. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Is it a good citizen of the AdaptNATION or a bad citizen?
I'm gonna still put it in the good category, but I will say that it's Harry Potter is starting to fall into the wrong crowd, and he might no longer be a good citizen for much longer. He needs to change his ways now before it's too late. But
Fair enough.
He's a good citizen.
And when we do, so next episode of AdaptNATION,
what would you
we're
say?
going to keep rolling Harry Potters? What would I say? I think this is one of the better movies. It does cut stuff out, but I think mostly it preserves the flow of the story. Which I'd rather that than Azkaban, which gets all kinds of stuff in, but loses really important stuff.
Right.
Personally.
Fair enough.
So yeah, next episode, we're going to go rolling into the next Potter. Should we just Potter till we're done with Potter now?
Yeah, we're going to Potter till we're done with Potter.
Alright. Alright, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and check out all the usual information down below and all that stuff, and yeah. Where can they find you when you're not talking to me, Jonathan?
Well, you can stick right on this channel, the Not Biscuits channel, or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. And from there, I'll usually post links and stuff to other places you can find me and all that other good stuff. But those are the two main ones. And where can they find you normally?
Just go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams. That's pretty much it. Alright. Expelliarmus!
Have a good one!
Bye!